let's list the rules you've learned. You learned the power of 0. You've learned the unofficial rule about 1. You've learned the product rule, that when you multiply bases that are the same, you add the exponents. You've learned the quotient rule, that when you divide bases that are the same, you subtract the exponents. You learned the product rule, the power rule, which is taking an exponent and raising it to an exponent means you multiply the exponents. And you also learned how to find the power of 10. Now, we're throwing negatives in there. I know you're really excited. So, you're going to evaluate expressions with negative exponents. We're going to start with baby steps and go. It's a mathematical operation. It says flip whatever I'm attached to. The negative exponent is a tool. It is, it's a tool. So after you apply it, it gets thrown away. So a to the negative n means flip the a. Now remember, you're going to go flip it. There's nothing under there. Every whole number is over 1. We just don't write it. So you flip it and it becomes 1 over a to the n. The exponent stays with the a and you throw away the negative because you used it up. So let's try it with a number. 3 to the negative 2. Remember, that's 3 over 1. So you're going to flip it. It becomes 1 over 3 to the positive 2. You used up the negative exponent by flipping the number. So it's thrown away. And then you do the math. 1 over 3 times 3, which is 1 over 9. Biggest thing to take away, the sign does not change. The sign of the base has nothing to do with the negative sign in the exponent. The negative sign in an exponent is a mathematical operation. It's telling you to do something. So let's go down here. When you've got negative numbers, we have a negative a, it's being raised to the negative n, it's still over 1. So you would think it'd be 1 over negative a to the n, but proper math grammar has the minus sign, the negative sign on the outside of the fraction, okay? So it becomes negative 1 over a to the n. See how similar it is to the first one? Here we've got negative 2 to the negative 3 becomes negative 1 over 2 to the third power, which is negative 1 over 8. Alrighty, now let's try it. I want you to stop, and then I want you to do it. I'm going to play around. Okay, negative x to the negative 5 becomes negative 1 over x to the 5th. And that's all I have to do because the negative stays with the variable. Now, I'm mean, and so I'm being mean on this next one. I'm going to tell you that right up front. I'm going to flip it because it's negative 4 to the negative 2. Negative 1 over 4 to the 2. Well, let me put my negative in the proper spot. Sorry, guys. But let's show you something. Negative 1 over 4 times negative 1 over 4 is positive 1 over 16. What? Because you're multiplying a negative fraction by a negative fraction. 2 negatives multiplied together are a positive. But Mrs. Gates, up here it was negative. I'm going to show you why. This is negative 1 over 2 times negative 1 over 2 times negative 1 over 2. A negative times a negative is a positive, times a negative is a negative. So I'll give you a little hint. I don't know if you're going to be able to remember, but I'll give you a little hint. Odd number exponent stays negative. There's your hint, okay? If you have an odd number exponent and you have a negative number, it's going to stay negative. I'm letting that sink in. Okay, I'm going to tag something on the end of this notes. Because remember, negative 3 times negative 3 equals positive 9, right? But negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 equals negative 27. So those are just little things to help you remember. All right, let's go to the next page. Power of 10. I know you just learned the power of 10, but we're going to apply the negative exponent. And you know what I always say, rules don't change. So here we go. 10 to the third power is 1,000. It's 1 with 3 zeros. That means, let's be logical about this. 10 to the negative third would be 1 over 10 to the third, which is 1 over 1,000. So what you're doing is you're flipping the fraction like you always did. You're flipping it and still doing the power of 10 rule. So let's look at this. I gave you 3 little steps here. 10 to the negative 1 is 1 over 10. Because the exponent of negative 1 means 1 0 in the denominator. Exponent of negative 2, 2 zeros in the denominator. Exponent of negative 6, 6 zeros in the denominator. So you, basically in a nutshell, I mean, this is a very short day, but it's a very big concept. The negative sign in the exponent is a mathematical operation. Whether you're doing power of 10, whether you're doing variables, whether you're doing other integers, it is a mathematical operation. I highly suggest when you do this work, you write it out as you solve it. All right, that wraps up day 3.